Then is Mr. Diaz going to be testifying?
He better be.
So,
I'd like to address that. So first, with respect to Mr. Diaz's testimony, respectfully pursuant to his privilege under both the United States and Nevada constitutions against self-incrimination and on advice of counsel, he will not be testifying today other than to invoke the privilege as necessary.
Well, then he'll have to do it on a question-by-question basis because it is not a blanket objection or it's not a blanket prohibition against testimony.
If you would like to draw this proceeding out and ask him each question and have him answer, invoke his privilege, we're happy to have you do that.
We're not going to, or at least my recommendation to the chair is going to be that we do not accept a blanket prohibition on his testimony, that it has to be on a question-by-question basis.
If that's your recommendation, then he will comply with that request.
We've got a few questions of Mr. Diaz, please. Mr. Diaz, would you state your name for the record, please?
It's Nick Diaz.
It's my understanding that you're a UFC fighter, is that correct?
Yeah.
And you fought in the UFC, I think it was, what, 184, 183?
Respectfully, I'm not going to answer the question.
And the reason why?
The Fifth Amendment.
And do you have reasonable cause to believe that you are going to be subject to criminal prosecution?
Same answer. Fifth Amendment.
Fifth Amendment.
Okay. And has there been any announcement of any criminal prosecution against you?
Same answer.
Fifth Amendment.
Do you consider yourself to be an unarmed combatant?
Same.
Fifth Amendment.
When did you first learn that you were going to fight in UFC? I think, like I said, I think it's 183. It was the fight that was on January 31st of 2015.
Fifth Amendment.
It's my understanding that based upon announced reports that you would have learned at least by July 30th of 2014. Is that correct?
Fifth Amendment.
Now, you were aware that if you were going to fight in the state of Nevada, that you would have had to provide a clean test upon reapplication before the State Athletic Commission, correct?
Fifth Amendment.
And what did you understand that clean test to require?
Fifth Amendment.
What efforts did you take to determine if, in fact, that you could produce a clean test?
The Fifth Amendment.
And did you understand a clean test to require you to be under the acceptable levels for marijuana testing,
The Fifth Amendment.
as well as every other prohibited substance, both in competition as well as out of competition?
Fifth Amendment.
Now, did you have difficulty producing a clean test?
Fifth Amendment.
Did you go to a laboratory and provide a urine sample and ask to see the results of that urine sample?
Fifth Amendment.
And did you have to do that excuse me?
Mr. Chair, if I may make an objection, a standing objection. It's abuse of discretion. Mr. Diaz is going to answer the same question. The same answer to every question. The only purpose for this exercise is to create a spectacle to embarrass him and to undermine his exercise of constitutional rights. And we want to put the commission on notice that that's our view.
We appreciate that very much. One of the things that I'm trying to do is to make the appropriate record that in this civil proceeding, which we're in, is a civil proceeding, that we may infer a negative or an adverse response to the question that, in fact, that is given in response to a question for which the Fifth Amendment is asserted. So I'm going to continue as far as to make the record here, please. Mr. Diaz?
Well, respectfully, we disagree with your interpretation of the laws, and albeit you may be governed by your commission's regulations, I believe the United States Constitution and the Nevada State Constitution trump those regulations. But proceed with your misinterpretation of the law.
You know, at some point in time, somebody's going to tell us if you're right or I'm right. So
I believe so.
I agree with you. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to make the record, all right?
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Diaz, back to my questions to you. Did you take any efforts then to determine if, in fact, that you could provide a clean test upon reapplication before the State Athletic Commission?
Fifth Amendment.
Did you wait to submit an application until January 28th, which was only 3 days before your fight, because you had difficulties providing a clean test to go along with the application that you intended to submit to us?
Fifth Amendment.
Between your license date of January 28th of 2015 and your fight night on January 31st, did you consume marijuana?
Fifth Amendment.
You had a physical on the night of the weigh-in, did you not?
Fifth Amendment.
One of the ringside doctors performed a physical examination of you as well as you filling out a pre-fight medical questionnaire, is that correct?
Fifth Amendment.
Did you read that pre-fight medical questionnaire?
Fifth Amendment.
Do you read English?
Fifth Amendment.
Do you understand English?
Fifth Amendment.
And you understood the question that was posed on the pre-fight medical questionnaire. Have you taken or received any medication, drug, cream, inhalant, or injection, whether prescription, over the counter, from anyone or any place in the last month? Your response was no. Was that a true statement?
Fifth Amendment.
Was that a false statement?
Fifth Amendment.
Were you intending to provide false information to this commission?
Fifth Amendment.
Within 30 days prior to your fight on January 31st of 2015, had you consumed marijuana?
Fifth Amendment.
On the day of your fight on January 31st, 2015, did you consume marijuana?
Fifth Amendment.
One last question for you, Mr. Diaz. Back in August 15th of 2009, you were scheduled to fight in the state of California, and your opponent was Jay Huron. And you failed to obtain a license from the California State Athletic Commission because you did not attend the pre-fight drug testing. Did you not attend that pre-fight drug testing because you knew you were going to fail?
Fifth Amendment.
I have no further questions.